Hey everyone, welcome to a stream, a random live stream for this weekend. Today we're going to be doing a MOBA style input system with sort of camera drag, unit selection with the left click and right click. Just a kind of League of Legends Dota-ish input system, I guess. Before we get started, just a announcement, I guess, for anyone who's watching this on YouTube as a archive rather than a live. If you are watching, I hope you enjoy the video as we move forward. Please consider dropping $1 or $2 onto Patreon and help support the channel. We can grow and get some more of these live streams going and more tutorials and things like that. So that's basically all I wanted to say. With that said, I think we can get started. Hello to everyone in the live chat. Killer Beast, Raspberry Picker, Felixus. Random stream again. I'm sorry, it just kind of popped up out of the blue. What I'm going to do is, first of all, let's just head over to Open Game... Oh crap, I lost my Chrome tab. Open Game Art and... Open Game Art and pick up some... graphics. Oh god. Yes, so basically I don't want to do anything too crazy today. I just want a character of some kind. Let's have a look. 2D art. We'll pull in a character set. Again, I'm not even going to really bother animating it. Just want something to display. Did I search for character? I didn't. Let's just search for sprite. How's everyone doing today? How's your weekend so far? Alright, we're going to do the Dota style chicken, my favorite. Let me pull up a folder as well. And I will create a place. Let me just create a Game Maker Studio 2 MOBA movement, new folder, resources. I'm just creating this on my other screen right now, so I can bring them in. Our character is going to be this chicken, so I'm just going to drag that into my resources folder. There we have a chicken. Just woke up. Nice. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to... what was that? The Spiders resource. That's another really good website. There you go. The Spriters resource, they have a bunch of maps that we can just kind of download and put in the background. Because I'm not going to bother doing any map design for this because we want to get started with some code. So I guess let's just take a Final Fantasy map, I guess. What have we got? We have what am I doing? Final chapter. They all have Final Fantasy in there. I'm just being stupid. There we go. Oh, I lost it. Something like... Alright, you know what? For now, it doesn't matter. Let's get started with Game Maker. So, we've got some chickens. Let's just drag the chicken into Game Maker. I'm going to... we'll go to Edit Image first of all. Then I'm going to go to Image. I'm going to go to Convert to Frames. These are 32 by 32. We know that there are 4 of them and there's 1 frame per row, so we just click that. And then we'll get 4 images, 1 representing each chicken. I'm only going to use the down chicken for now so we can get rid of the others. How is Game Maker compared to Unity? It depends on what you're trying to do. So it's great for 2D stuff. Depends really on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to make a 3D adventure, obviously go with Unity, but Game Maker does remarkably well for 2D stuff. So there we go, we have a chicken, called SPR chicken. There we go. I'm going to create an object to represent that chicken. Object chicken, OBJ chicken, we'll give it the right sprite, of course. The other thing I did is I set the origin to middle so that it's centered, and then we'll just go to this room and we will drag a chicken onto that room. Now that chicken is going to represent our MOBA character, so I'm going to zoom out right out, and I'm going to set this room. What software was Geometry Dash made with? I think Geometry Dash, don't quote me on this, but I think it was originally written in C# and XNA, because it was an Xbox Live indie game before it was anything else. I guess now it's been remade, I don't know using what, maybe Unreal, maybe Unity, maybe they just continued to use XNA. So yeah, I'm going to make this room just 2,000, oops, it's 200, 2,000 by 2,000. And then I'm also going to add a viewport just by clicking the little viewports and cameras. I'm going to click enable viewports. I'm going to open viewport 1. I'm going to tick the visible box to make sure that it's visible. And now I'm going to set the camera properties up. We're going to make this viewport, let me get a calculator for this basic math. We're going to go 1280, that's divided by 2, so we're going to go 640 on the width. I don't know why I needed a calculator for that one. 1280 by 720 divided by 2, 360. So 640 by 360. And then the viewport properties will do 1280 by 640. Now what this is effectively going to do is give us a double pixel. It'll make the window size 1280 by 720, sorry. So it'll be 720p. And then the camera itself in the game will only be 640 by 360. Geometry Dash. Wait, Geometry Dash. That's not the game I'm thinking of. Sorry, I was thinking of that twin stick shooter Geometry. Can't remember what it's called now. You know the one I'm talking about, though. Sorry, not Geometry Dash. I have no idea what Geometry Dash was made in. The other thing I'm going to do is set the object following to the object chicken, so that we're following the chicken, and I'll set the horizontal and vertical borders to 1280 by 720. This will enforce the borders of the camera to ensure that the chicken is always in the center of the screen until it can no longer be in the center, i.e. we've reached the corners of the map. So I'm just going to run that again, and let's have a look and see what we've got. We should have a chicken basically in the center of the screen. Next up, let's bring in some RPG trees. So we'll go back over here. Let's just search for LPC tree. I think LPC stands for Liberated Pixel Cup or Challenge, something like that. Game Maker does use its own language, and it's kind of crap. I don't like it. GML is like C from back in 1980. Actually, I don't even know when C was around, but yeah, it's old feeling. It does have some legacy connections, I guess you could call them. So I'm just going to download this pack of plants. I'm going to drag that into my resources folder as well. And I'm just going to pop over back to Game Maker, and I'm going to drag that tree pack into my IDE. Then I'm going to edit the image. Just go to Images and select Convert to Frames, because I only really need to pick out, maybe one of these trees. Let's make it 64 wide and 64 tall. And I'm just going to have to hope that they kind of offset correctly. We'll find out soon enough. They are not offset correctly. So what we can do is we can do a vertical pixel offset of 16. No, maybe 32. I just want to try and align this so that I can get the right thing. Let's try 96. Horizontal cell offset, put that there. Put that as 32. There we go. Now, frame height, let's try 96. Oops, I messed up. There we go. Put that there. And then that means our vertical pixel offset can go back to 0. So it's not 96, it's 128. And vertical cell offset one more, and then we'll set this to 32. There we go. So now I've been able to select that tree out. Could have done that a hell of a lot easier if I knew what I was doing. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to pull that out kind of quickly, get it out of there painlessly without getting into Photoshop. Yes, this will be a they get archived and then they go on to my Patreon channel for about a week, and then after that they come out onto YouTube. So you should be able to see it by next Friday, roughly. So I'm just going to put this as middle center as well. So that this is now offset in the center. And the other thing I've got to do is rename this room because the default name is not doing it for me. I can call that RM main, just so that we know, just in case we forgot what room we're in. Now I'm just going to zoom in on my map here and find this chicken. And then I'm going to put in a bunch of trees. Now, the only reason I'm really doing this is just so that I need to create tree first as well. So I'm going to create an object. Obviously, sorry guys, this video is not planned. Just coding live with you. So I'm just going to do object tree, select this tree here like so, and then I'm going to go back here. I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key. This was a lovely shortcut suggested to me by... I forgot, I'm sorry. But if you hold down the Alt key, you can just click and put more, so you don't have to keep like dragging them in one by one, which is something, stupid I was doing in the last video. So I'm just going to put a bunch of trees around like this. Just you fill the map out, put some trees. It's not really a video on making pretty maps. I just wanted to give you something so that we can see the character walking around. Why is the character a chicken? Wonderful question that I have absolutely no answer to. I'm sorry, I have no idea. The chicken is just important. That's really all I can say. So now let's find a grass texture. I'm going to go and look for LPC again, and let's just try and find the original LPC. Yeah, I'm not complaining about the chicken either, man. It's necessary. There's really not much else we can say about the chicken. It's a necessary chicken. It's one of those kind of chickens. We need to find a grass texture. There we go. This one will do fine. So I'm just going to download this zip pack. I'm going to open the zip pack. I'm going to drag the zip pack into my folder. I'm going to move back to Game Maker. I'm going to Alt Tab back to my folder, and I'm going to drag the terrain into my game. Then I'm going to go edit image, and now we're going to chop out this little grass texture right here in the middle. Actually, let's chop this one out. No, let's not. Actually, no, let's do that. No, actually, I changed my mind. Sorry. Actually, no, what am I doing? I'm being stupid. We can just create a tile set now, because this is Game Maker Studio 2. I'm going to call this TS map. And I'm just going to choose that tile set to be our map, and the tiles are 32 by 32, I think. Yes, they are. Well, they're not, but they are, if that makes sense. Then I'm just going to go to RM main. Then we're going to create a tile layer. This is called tiles 1. I'm going to put it below my instances, and I'm going to rename it. I can't remember how you rename them. Maybe just right click and select rename would make sense. Let's just call this tile map. With the correct capitalization, maybe. Tile map. There we go. Now I'm going to select the tile set that we just created, and we're going to fill the map with grass. There we go. We have a nice looking kind of grassy plain to walk on now. Then I'm going to sort of just zoom out, and I'm going to select these, and I'm just going to kind of like randomly put in some grass spots. I'm just clicking randomly right now. There is no randomized brush in this tile editor. I'm kind of hoping one day they allow extensions to the IDE, a bit more like Unity. Then I will write one. Save us all a hell of a lot of time, but for now this will suffice. So I'm just going to put down a bunch of these, make the map look nice. Put some little flowery ones in there as well, a bit more infrequent, like so. What's a MOBA? A MOBA is a mobile online battle arena. And that essentially is just like Dota or League of Legends. That sort of style of gameplay. Effectively, RTS kind of movement. There we go. So that will do for now. Now we have a map with some details. The reason I had to create a map like this, because when we do the movement code, if there was no map, we wouldn't be able to see anything moving. So now we have a map that, you know, somewhat, you'll see the chicken moving. Maybe you should check the description. Anime Lisi, it's all right. It's all good. Not everyone knows what a MOBA is. I thought it was a popular term, so it's all good. We have a chicken. So the chicken and the map. All right, so let's get into the code. How are we actually going to do this? Well, the first thing I want to do is let's create a camera, because we want the camera to be separate to the character's movement. So let's call this one obj camera. I'm going to place the camera on the map. I'm just going to put it right now, not on that layer. I'm just going to put it for now, like right there. And I'm going to change the following object to the camera, so that the game maker viewport will now follow the camera object. Then what I'm going to do is create another object. Let's call this obj_controller. And the controller's job is going to be to sort of just exist and listen to inputs and process selections and notify the camera of movements and, you know, other things that it needs to be doing. So if we move the chicken now, we'll keep it in the viewport. We'll just put it over there. But what we should see now is the chicken will be offset, because now we're following along with the camera object. And just to have a look at that, I'm just debugging now, and then you'll see, so the chicken's offset, which means that we're targeted on the camera, which is good. Andreas Bondhapt, why game maker? Why not? I don't know. I make game maker tutorials. I do Unity every now and then, but not so often. Mostly game maker. I like it. It's quick. We can make a lot of stuff pretty quickly. It runs on practically every platform, so it does a pretty good job. So in the controller, I'm gonna add a. What am I gonna do? I have no idea. I'm gonna add a create event. I'm gonna zoom up on that code for you so you can see it. There we go. Let's just call this init controller. I'm gonna put a public variable in here, and we're gonna call this is left pressed, and I'm going to set it to false for now. Then what I'm going to do, actually, we'll also say start, say left_start_x equals 0, left_start_y equals 0. These are going to represent the starting coordinates when we press our left button, so that when we drag, we know where did we start this selection from and where have we moved to. So what is the difference? So then I'm going to add a global mouse down, mouse left down. So I'm just going to go to mouse global left pressed, actually, I think is the one I'm looking for. Process start of camera drag. Actually, you know what? This really should be right click. I'm going to change all of these to right, because the right click is usually what we're using to deal with the dragging of a camera in a game. So I'm going to change that event to a global mouse right pressed, actually. Global mouse right pressed. There we go. So now we set these variables up in here. Process the start of camera drag. What we're going to do is basically set the is right pressed variable to true. The right start x is going to be to mouse x, which is going to be the current position of our mouse, and the mouse start and the y is going to be the current position of the y. Then what we can do is in our we're going to add another global mouse event. This time it'll be right released. So global mouse right released, and we're going to say stop moving camera. There we go. Then all we need to do in this one is basically say is right mouse pressed false. Then what we can do is we can go and create a step event. We can say process camera drag. Actually, this is just going to be process game inputs, and we'll say if is right pressed. So if we are pressing the right button, we need to work out the difference between the start of our right click and the current mouse's X position. So we'll say diff_X equals... do I stream on Twitch? No, I don't stream on Twitch, to be honest. Basically, every time I stream on Twitch, the chat room just gets filled up with people who just put up like Nazi signs, and yeah, that's what happened last time. So I don't stream on Twitch that much anymore. So we'll subtract the start with the current position, and we'll also do the Y as well. Diff Y is going to be the Y position. And then what are we going to do with that value? So now we have the difference between where the mouse started and where the mouse currently is. Let's apply that position to the camera object. So we'll say object underscore camera dot x equals diff x, and then we'll say obj camera dot y equals diff underscore y. Excuse me. Let's have a look and see if that works. I don't know if this is going to work. This is live. I guess it's going to work. It probably won't, because of course, yeah. So we got some issues. First of all, I think I've made a mistake with something somewhere, because we have diff x, right start mouse x, diff y, right start y, mouse y, x, diff x, y, diff y. What did I do in here? X is x, y is y. Alright, what have I done wrong? So let's try add. Sorry, I might need to add the difference instead of just setting the position to the difference, because we already have a camera position we're trying to drag. So let's have a look and see if that works. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So now we can right click and drag the camera around. So let me actually also explain what was going wrong there, just to be a little more informative. I set the camera's position directly to be the difference between the mouse's start position and the current mouse's position. So if I just pop paint up real quick, effectively what was happening then, if we take a sort of position anywhere in here like this, and then we work out what the difference between that position and this position, so that's where we dragged to, is we subtract the two together, effectively we're saying starting from 0 the difference is going to be plus, minus, up or down. So if we try to apply that coordinate to, say, a camera which is currently here, we haven't taken into respect where that camera currently was, and the camera basically just jumps up to here and moves anywhere along those positions. So what we had to do is we have to change that to plus equals, because we're trying to add the difference of our mouse movement to the camera's existing position to allow us to drag. We can make that a little more smooth by, instead of just adding the position, we could linear interpolate to the position, so we can now drag around. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's say that the camera, instead of having a fixed position, it itself does its own movement. So we'll move into the camera, we'll create a create event, we'll say init camera, there we go, and we'll say target x equals, and for this we'll just put x, because we want to say that its current position is its target. So target underscore y equals y. So now the camera has a target. Basically we can add a step event, and then we can say to linear interpolate, so we'll say move the camera. So we'll say x equals lerp. We want a lerp, which is linear interpolate, from the current x position to the target x position. And the amount that we're going to lerp is by, say, 0.1. We'll just give a random factor for now. We'll do the same thing for the y variable. So the y position is going to be linear interpolated between its current position and its target y position. And then in our controller, instead of directly modifying the camera's x and y, let's modify the target x and target y. So what should happen now is, instead of directly moving the camera, we're kind of moving the point that we want the camera to get to, and then the camera is going to move itself to that point because it's currently not at that point. That's what the linear interpolate function is going to get us. Whoa! Had a slight issue there. If that's a kind of funny, but you can see it's a lot smoother. Now we got this kind of like gravity drag. Let's fix that up though, because basically I think what that is the speed of the linear interpolation. So let's just go and shift this down to 0.5, make it a bit slower. There we go. That'll do for now. It makes the movement just a bit smoother. And let's have a look at that. Alrighty. There we go. We have these targets now. I can drag the camera. It's got like a bit of friction to it. Like that. The other thing we can do just for debug purposes is we could add a draw event. I'm going to add a draw to actually, yeah, this draw event will do fine. Draw. So I'm just going to draw. Oops. There is no draw self. It's not needed. So we'll just say draw circle. We'll draw a circle at target X and target Y, and we'll put a radius of say 10 pixels. And yes, we will outline it. So we'll put a true in there as well. Now we can just run that quickly, so that way we can see where the target is, because if we don't know where the target is, we don't actually know exactly what's happening. And in order to stop that kind of bounciness from happening, we can effectively say that the target, so yeah, the target is moving way too fast. That's the first thing I see, because it's constantly adding the value every step event. So we can multiply these down. We can multiply them down just so that they're not so dramatic. This is just going through a bit of input optimization, I guess you'd call it. Well, it's not even optimization. I don't know what it is. We're just playing with variables to get a good feel. We want it to feel nice, if that makes sense. So by doing that, what we've done is we've said we only really want to take into account 10% of the mouse's movement. That's going to give us, you know, a relatively nice kind of camera movement. I'm happy with that. Gives us a good feel, good camera drag effect. The other thing we can do is, how do you move the chicken? Yeah, so I haven't done the chicken code yet, but basically right click to drag, left click to draw a box around the chicken, and then left click points in order to move the chicken. So if we're dragging, we want to select. If we're clicking, we want to move. So anyway, I'm quite happy with the camera movement right now. I'd like to speed it up again because it's a little bit, it really is just a little bit too slow. So I'm going to set it to 0.1. The other thing we're going to do is, instead of moving all the time, we're only going to move if the controller is currently processing the left input. So we'll just say obj controller dot is right press. So if we're right clicking, then we'll process the movement. If we're not right clicking, not going to process movement anymore. I don't know if that's going to give us any kind of glitchy movements, but we'll see. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's probably a bit better. That's better. I like that. We can move faster if we drag faster. It still has that kind of lerpy, bouncy effect to it, like it overshoots. Oh well, it's good enough for our demo. I will turn that off anyway, just so that we can move around a bit quicker, but get the idea. So let's do the chicken selection now. So first of all, the chicken needs to know if it's currently selected. If the chicken's not selected, it needs to basically just not do anything. So initialize the chicken. Chicken, there we go. Oh, can I even spell chicken? Apparently not. So is selected is going to be the variable we use for this. I'm going to say false. The chicken is not selected currently. So chicken's not selected. Then if the chicken is selected, we need to be able to do something if the chicken's selected. So the chicken probably should have a kind of movement target. So let's do the same thing that we did with the camera. We'll say move target X, and we'll just say that that is its current position. Move target Y equals Y. And then we'll have another variable, should move equals, no, false. False. The chicken shouldn't be moving right now. So we're already at our current position. We don't need to be moving. So I think the next thing we need to do is work on the mouse selection and deselection. So let's go into our controller. Let's add a, what are we going to do? We're going to do a, excuse me, let's do an is dragging, first of all. Is dragging equals false. Should do a is left dragging, because we're using the left mouse button. Left start X equals 0. Left start y equals 0. Okay, that should do for now. Let's add a global. Let's add a global mouse left pressed. Then in here we need to say process chicken selection code, right? So we're going to process the chicken selection. What we do if the left button is pressed, we're not going to set is dragging yet. Okay, we're going to leave that one off, but we are going to set the start X to be the mouse position again, right? Because we'll use our step event to determine if we have moved the current mouse position more than a certain factor, then we're dragging. But if we aren't dragging and we release, then we really need to be checking for selection. So that's our current start X position. And then we'll do a global mouse global mouse left released. And in this one, we will turn all of these off. Actually, no, we'll only turn this one off. Left released. So left click finished. So we'll set the is dragging back to false. Hey, Coxie. So left dragging is false. Yeah, so we've released the left button, so we're no longer dragging. Okay. Now, what we need to do, let's add another variable up here. This one's going to be called is left pressed. Right? This one's going to be false for now as well. We need to determine the difference between a press and a drag. So in our left pressed function, we're going to say is the left button pressed is true, because yes, we have pressed the button, but we're not dragging yet. And then when we release the left button, we need to say that is left press is false, and dragging is not false, because we're not dragging or pressing. That's all good, Coxie. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a draw. What do you call that? A draw event. This is going to be draw selection. Oops. Draw selection box. This is going to be the box that we check to see if we've selected something in. And I'm just going to use the draw box, rectangle function. We're going to draw from left start X to left start Y. We're going to draw from to mouse X to mouse Y, and we will leave an outline of 1. Just put that in there just to say that yes, we want that. The other thing we'll do is we'll do a draw set color, and we'll do a C green. Typically in those old school RTS type games, the draw color was green. Think back to like Command and Conquer, those kind of style games, and even I think Warcraft. I can't even remember Warcraft 3. I think that was green. You know what? I've just realized that's probably a bad idea considering that we're on a green background. So let's make this blue. That'll do. But it was working. I don't think it came through on YouTube. So now that it's blue, I'll do it again so that we can see. All right. So let's have a look. Right, there we go. So there was a bit of a bug there because it's always drawing, but effectively we can create squares on the screen now. The way that we stop that from happening is we only need to draw this rectangle if the left button is pressed. So we need to say if left is pressed, then we're going to draw this, and effectively now we'll only see the square when we've got the button selected. So when we have the left button pressed. That gives us our selection script. So now we can draw that. There is a slight other bug there where the color is changing from blue. That's because I put the draw set color in there. Let's put that out of there for now. We really don't even need that. It's just so that you guys can see the colors of the shapes that we're drawing on the screen. And if we wanted to thicken this line up a little bit, say it was a little too thin, you know, we could just draw another rectangle 1 pixel smaller than this existing selected rectangle. So now we've got a kind of selection box that we can draw on the screen. We can move the camera target by right-clicking and dragging. You know, so if we want to move up here, select our chicken, move the chicken over there, move over here, you know, we're able to now move around. This is more of an RTS system rather than a MOBA. MOBA is effectively an RTS. I think they kind of just... I think originally Dota was built on top of Warcraft 3, so the movement system is kind of the same. I think there's slight differences in the sense that we're not processing through multiple selections. So we're not going to be selecting an army of MOBA characters. We're only going to be selecting one, which we could do by either dragging over it or clicking it directly. And then we can move the camera around. But yeah, they're very similar. So we've got a left pressed check now going for the I can't remember what it's called now, the rectangle that we just made. You can also, if you want to thicken it up, I'm just going to add 1 pixel, and then on the other side I'll subtract 2 pixels, because we need to subtract the pixel that we added, and then we also need to subtract the pixel that we want to make a smaller box than the one that we've got. That'll basically double our line thickness, though I'm not suggesting anyone do this in their games for any reason, but yeah. Well, that didn't work too well. That's weird. We added 1 and we subtracted 2. I wonder if it's because I've got screen doubling on. This is going to be really weird if we have to add half a pixel, because that doesn't make sense either. So let's have a look anyway and see if this works by adding half a pixel. Yeah, so half a pixel works. Alright, so in that case then we'll add half and we'll subtract 1. The reason that's happening is because I've doubled the screen view. Oki-san, it doesn't really matter. Just input, basically. Game input. It could be used for RTS or a MOBA. Anyway, so we've added... Sorry, we've added half and we've subtracted 1. We only need to subtract half. So I'm going to subtract half as well. Don't know why I'm spending so much time making a blue box, but it's all good. Let's run that quickly and have a look. So now we have a blue box, twice the thickness of the blue box that we started with. Wonderful. So next thing to do is to determine, are we dragging or are we clicking? So what we're going to do is we've created 2 variables now. So we have this this concept of, is it pressed and is it dragging? So in the step event, in the draw event, first of all, is left pressed is the trigger that we're using to display this. We really should be using is left dragging, because we only really need to see if the left button is dragging, but right now dragging doesn't do anything, so you won't see anything. But let's make that do something by doing a diff calculation against the left click. So we can say if is left pressed, then we're going to do a diff calculation. We're going to do a left diff X. Let's do a left diff Y as well. And this time we'll change those from right start to left start. Left start, oops. There we go. Left start, diff Y, diff X. Right, so now we have this difference between the current position. Now, difference this time is that we're going to use an ABS function, absolute. What this means is that the number will always be above 0. So, for instance, because we're doing a difference, we can never determine, is the left starting position greater than the mouse's current X position. If we move to the left, it's going to be it's going to be more than our mouse's current position. And if we move to the right, then it's going to be less than our starting position. So if we just left this as it was, the number could effectively be negative or positive based on the position of our mouse. So what we actually have to do is put it in an abs function, which is absolute. And absolute basically means the number will always be above 0. So if we move to the left and the number is above 0, i.e. we subtract 5 pixels, our mouse is currently at pixel 5, but we started at pixel 10. We subtract them together, we get left with a number that's like positive 5. That works wonderfully, no problem. But if we started at position 10, we moved 5 pixels to the right, so our mouse is currently at position 15. We subtracted 15 from 10, we'd end up with negative 5. So to do what I'm about to do, which is determine how far, if we've made enough movement in order to call this a drag, we need to make sure that we have a number that's always above 0 so that we can actually see if the number is above a threshold, and then we'll call it a drag instead. So by doing the absolute function there, we've effectively said that any negative value is going to be a positive value. So if it was negative 15, it's now going to be positive 15. If it was positive 15, it's still going to be positive 15. So with that, we can do a... What are we actually going to do? We're going to add the two numbers together, and then we're going to see if those two numbers are greater than threshold, whatever that is. Let's call that 10 pixels. So we'll say left diff X, and we're going to add that to left diff Y. So right now that does nothing. I'm going to put those in brackets just to say that this is a chunk of math that I want to process. And we'll say if that is greater than the threshold is going to be, for this example, let's just say 10 pixels. If we have moved 10 pixels, we're considering this a drag. So we'll say is left dragging, and we're going to say that that is now true because we've moved greater than 10 pixels. We never set that back to false because it doesn't matter. Once it's set to true, this is now considered a drag. So even if we came back to a number that was smaller than 10 pixels, it's still considered a drag because we started by dragging. So I'm going to run that and let's see what happens. So I've clicked the left button. I've moved a little bit. Nothing's happened. I got to a certain point and the cursor appeared. So I can click now. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm clicking, but nothing is appearing on the screen. But if I click and drag, we will get a cursor that starts where the mouse was. Now, obviously, when you're clicking and dragging, you're moving at a speed that you're not going to notice the fact that the threshold was there. I'm moving in this little small area here, but as soon as I get out of that, the box will appear. So it's a kind of a clever, nifty trick to processing multiple kinds of inputs with one input in a step event when we want them to do fundamentally different things like select or drag. So we should be able to select that chicken and then click somewhere and say, hey, I just clicked. Now, moving on, we need to find out a way to determine if the click was successful. Like, we don't want to register a click if we were dragging, and we don't want to register a drag if we were clicking. So now that we have determined if we're dragging by doing this absolute, basic math, absolute, and then adding the numbers together and determining if they're greater than a threshold, have we moved enough pixels? When we release the left button now, when the left button is released, we can say, if it was dragging, then do nothing. But if it wasn't dragging, then it must have been clicking. So regardless of what we do, we're always going to set these to false. So I'm going to leave those as they were. And then I'm going to put code above this to say if is left dragging. If it wasn't, so I'm going to say if that was false, oh my god, equals, I can't even spell. If that was false, then, sorry, if that was false, then we're not dragging, we're clicking. So if we're clicking, this is effectively where we're going to do our click code, right? What do we want to do in our click code? We want to see if the chicken's position was within our selection. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if object chicken dot x is greater than the left x start position, which is where we started our... Hang on. What am I doing? No, I'm doing click, sorry. I'm being stupid. We need to say, yeah, this is... Sorry, let me change that. Sorry, guys. This is our process click event. We also need to have the opposite of that, which is our drag. So we say if is left dragging equals true. Then we need to process our drag event. Now, what do we want to do if it's dragging? We want to select the chicken. What do we want to do if it's clicking? We want to say if the chicken is selected, we want to move the chicken. Move the chicken. I can't even spell. Sorry, guys, I am using a new keyboard, so partially the reason. But basically, yes. So if we're dragging, we want to select the chicken if the chicken is within our box bounding. So we'll say if object underscore chicken dot x is greater than our current left start x position, and the object chicken's y position is greater than our left start y position. Right, so now we have the first value is the chicken's x position greater than our start position, and is the chicken's y position greater than our y start position, and is the chicken's position less than our mouse's current position. So basically the boundings of the box. So obj underscore chicken dot x is less than our mouse's current position, which is x, and our obj chicken dot x is less than our dot y. Our chicken's y position is less than our mouse's y position. If all of those conditions are true, then the chicken is within the box. So chicken is in the box. Select the chicken. So what we want to say now, we already set the variables up earlier in the stream, so we're just going to say obj underscore chicken dot is selected, I think we called it, is selected. We're going to say that that is true. The chicken was selected. Otherwise, the chicken is not selected. The chicken is not in the box. So I'm going to add a comment. We have to add this comment. Chicken is not in the box. Deselect. So the chicken is going to be is selected equals false, right? So if the chicken exists within our box bounding, the chicken is selected. If the chicken doesn't exist in our box bounding, the chicken is not selected. Now, we need a way to determine whether or not the chicken was selected, which we currently don't have, so I don't know why I ran the game. Let's go to the chicken. We're going to add a draw event that just sort of says, draw the chicken. Draw the chicken. There we go. We're just going to do something like draw self so that we can see the chicken. And then if is selected, if the chicken is selected, we're just going to draw a little circle around it. You know, draw circle. And we're going to draw the circle at x, y, radius of 16, half of the chicken's size, outline 1. And I think it will just be blue by default because that's the way that the thing is set up. Now, we can run the game, we can try and drag around the chicken, and we can see, is the chicken going to select itself when we do this? Or has my math been incorrect? Right, so the chicken was selected, chicken was deselected. Chicken was selected, chicken was deselected. I don't think it will work in reverse, but that's fine. For now, we can just say that the chicken is selected or the chicken is deselected. We could do the math again. The dragging it as a single equal, not double, although you don't need it. Yeah, Game Maker, you don't need the double equals, but for consistency, you're right. I will add that back in. The if statement. What if statement? The if statement has a single equals in there. Ah, yes, you're right. Yeah, in Game Maker, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I should have put doubles in there. You should do a multi-select by pressing shift. I mean, multi-select is also quite easy. You just need to use a with event to determine if the chicken was in the boundary was in the boundaries. Then you can select multiple things. So actually, sorry, I'm talking to myself. In order to do the opposite of this, as in the reverse, then you simply just invert these. You just copy the if statement and you flip them around. So these become less than and these become greater than. We can actually do that. This is called basically statement 1, right? So this is the first statement of selection. Then we can do an or, which is the exact opposite of this. So we can put that there and we can say, or this is less than the start x, and greater than the mouse's x and y position. And effectively what that's going to do, I know that's a huge if statement, so put this in a script somewhere, abstract it away, hide it behind a function, you know, sweep it under the carpet so no one can see it, and just call it something nice like is chicken in boundary. But effectively, you know, we can select it from the front way, and we can also select it from the reverse way, and it will work either way. Yeah. With multiple units, you would have units seeing if they're within the bounds. Exactly, Oki-san. We'll do that. I'm going to get rid of this if statement here. I'm just going to revert this back to a single if statement. And what we'll do is we'll do a multi-select. I'll show you how to do a multi-select. Since we're on stream, we're doing it. We're live. We might as well just do a multi-select, right? Turn it into an RTS kind of selection. I'm going to put a bunch of chickens on the map. Just put a couple of them there, like so. I'm only going to do movement on one chicken though, because RTS movement can be a bit of a pain. But I'll show you how to select them at least. So what we'll do here, when we determine that we are dragging, select the click. What did I say? As chicken. That's what I wanted to write there. We'll say with obj chicken. This will create a function that's going to run for each chicken, basically. Then what we do is we compare the scope of this object with the object that we're currently in. So when we're within the confines of a with statement, we're effectively saying that our scope is now the scope of the object that we're looking at. So if I said X like this, we're actually not talking about X position of the controller, which is the code that we're currently writing in. We're talking about the X position of the chicken, which basically means that anything that's inside this with statement is effectively code that's running way over here in the chicken object. Hey, Chris Lee, welcome to the stream. So we can exploit that kind of just to say that if X is greater than, now because we're effectively running code as if we were the chicken rather than the controller, we now need to reference back to the controller. So we can say obj underscore controller, and then we say dot left start X, like so. That is the way that we need to do this. I'm just going to paste these in here like that, and I'm going to change these so that we no longer have to reference the chicken like directly. We're gonna do it like this. And then I'm going to prefix this variable with the object controller because we're within the confines of this chicken scope. So if the statement is true, then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say that the chicken is selected. For the selection, could you also convert the mouse and start positions into values for the bounds and then check the position versus the bounds? This is to combat. Could you convert... Sorry, let me read that again. Could you convert the mouse and starting positions into values for the bounds and then check the position versus the... Yeah, you could do it the other way. That works too. See whether or not the chicken is inside the boundary rather than see if the boundary is over the chicken. So that is going to select our chickens, and then the other thing that we need to do before we do this... Now, the one difference when selecting multiple enemies is that we need to tell them all, before we do any selection, that you are all not selected. And we need to do that before we start selecting them, because if we do it while we're selecting them, they're going to kind of like select one, then it's going to deselect the others. So you need to tell them all that they're no longer selected. Is selected equals false. There we go. So we tell them all, none of you chickens are selected, and then we go through and we process, are any of you chickens selected? So let's go ahead and run this, and effectively this is multiple unit selection now. I think. I hope. We're about to find out anyway. So if I select one, no, it selected all of them. No. No. I know why, because I said object chicken dot is selected. This should just be is selected equals true, because the context of the object. Let's see if that made a difference. I hope it made a difference, because if it didn't, that's gonna kind of suck. Nah, it did. Of course it did. So now we can select multiple units. So you can see I can select just these three, just those two, just those two, just those three, these four. We have multi-unit selection by doing a system that works like this. Now, because we're on stream, and again, I think it's worth explaining this in detail because we can, because there's no kind of script for this video. So why was it that when I had object chicken dot is selected equals true, that all of the chickens selected themselves when I put the put the bounding box over a single chicken. Like, why did that happen? Well, the reason is partially because of the way that Game Maker works. Object chicken exists on this map 5 times. And so if we directly reference object chicken, regardless of where we are in the game, and we set a variable, we're effectively saying, I want any object chicken to have this variable set to this value. So by saying object chicken.isSelected equals true, we're basically saying all the chickens are selected. But if we get rid of this, because remember that we're in the context of a single instance of that chicken, isSelected now represents the one object that we're looking at, just that one chicken in particular. And when we compare, if its current position is within the box bound and we say isSelected equals true, then only that chicken is going to be selected, because we're currently in the scope of that chicken. We're looking only at the variables for just that object. That was effectively the issue with the code just then that we fixed. So that's how you do multi-select. I'm going to get rid of these chickens here because I want to go back to doing just single select and MOBA, or MOBA style input, I guess you could call it. Now you've all got me confused about calling it MOBA style input. But yes, basically, if the chicken was within the box bounding, then we select it. If it wasn't, then we deselect it. So let's go back and make sure that that still works. I don't know why it's showing me a bunch of errors here, because it's not erroneous. It should be working fine. Oh no, that's weird. Did I delete something I should have deleted? Did I delete something? What have I done? I think I deleted a bracket. That might be it. There we go. That solved all the errors. Deleted the bracket. So we'll just confirm that the selection is still working. And then if it is, we'll go ahead and we'll do a very basic, just move to the point kind of, yes, selection's working. And I can deselect, select, deselect, select, deselect. Cool. So now that we know that it's selected, if the left button was released and we weren't dragging, then what do? We need to tell the chicken, hey, it's time to move, and where are you going to move? So we're just going to say obj underscore chicken dot target. It was called move target X. I'm going to set this to mouse X, the current mouse's position. Move target Y is going to be mouse Y. And I mean, technically, to be really precise here, we should use the left start X and the left start Y, not the current mouse's position, because technically speaking, those are the positions that we stored when we did click in the beginning. Then we're just going to say obj chicken dot. I can't remember if I called it should move. I think, yeah, I did. Should move equals true. We can tell the chicken, yes, you should move now. Then in the chicken, we can do something real basic, like in the step event. We just, I don't even know. We're just gonna move the chicken. We don't even need should move. Actually, we could just say X equals. Well, first of all, let's work out the direction. So if that if statement doesn't cover all directions, one would also, or would you need another? Yeah, we did the other one already. You just do the same thing, but you invert the if statement, so that the greater thans become less thans and the less thans become greater thans. Oh my god, the comments. What is a MOBA movement system? I'm sorry for anyone watching this in the future. You've probably heard what a MOBA movement system is now about 6 times. We're doing RTS style movement. I'll change the title of the video after. Anyway, we're just gonna work out the direction that we need to move in. So direction X equals length direction X. The length that we're going to move is 1. We want to move 1 pixel in the direction of... we need point direction as well, don't we? We need X dir equals... Oops, X dir equals point direction. Point direction. The X and Y is just going to be our current X and our current Y, and the X2 and Y2 is going to be target X and target Y. Target Y. Now we have a direction vector. We're going to put this direction vector. Why do I call it dir? direction vector, and I'm going to put that direction vector into our length direction x function, which is going to give us a dir x value. We do the same thing for dir y, and then I'm going to apply that to the x position plus equals dir x. Oops. And we'll do the same thing for y, and we should have a chicken that now moves towards our point. Let's have a look. Yes, it's time to test. This may not work. We don't know. It's live. It's the thrill of live coding, and it didn't work. And I didn't read what the error was, so now I'm screwed. I think the error is that it's not called target X. It's called move target X, move target Y. So let's just get rid of those. And let's test again. And hopefully it works. And if it doesn't, it's time to quit YouTube and pack up my career and go home. We got this wobble because we're not what do you call it? We're not using this should move variable. You know what? Screw all of this. I'm just gonna cheat. I'm just gonna say x. I'm not gonna get away with this. X equals lerp x to target x amount 0.1. Yeah, whatever. It'll do. And then let's just set those to what? Seriously, I think this song is playing itself on repeat. These no copyright sounds, they must have the same like 5 songs in a playlist like 100 times. Alright, let's see if that's any better. Alright, that's better. So now let's select the chicken, and we're not getting any target. Not getting any target. The targeting code is not working. So if is left dragging equals false, it's because we changed the variable names, didn't we? To target X, target Y. Alrighty, one more run, and it should work. Let's have a look and see. Can we move the chicken? Yes, we can move the chicken. Wonderful. We can select the chicken. I know this is really shoddy kind of. It's more like chicken teleporting, but we can drag around the map now, move the chicken. I have set it really fast, and I didn't do a proper nice like pixel by pixel movement, just to kind of just to show you, that we can select the chicken, drag around. We can select away, and the chicken still moves for some reason. Let's fix that. That shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't be happening at all. Why is that happening? Left dragging is not false. It's setting a target even though left dragging is false. Sorry, is true. So if is left dragging is true, let's find out what's going on here. We've basically got the structure of this down now. We just got to resolve these few little issues. So if we click, it still moves. Oh, we got a comment. By pressing shift. I meant the previous chicken didn't deselect but join the selection. I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, in order to do that, you just say that if the shift button is pressed, don't wipe out the existing selections. I'm not using the should move function. Yes, I wasn't using the should move function, but technically speaking, the targets shouldn't be updating unless the is dragging is false. And if is dragging, oh, hang on a minute. You're right. I'm not using the should move function. I'm an idiot. That makes so much sense. Should move equals false. We're going to say if should move, then move, obviously. And then after moving, we need to determine if X equals target X. And Y equals target Y. Then should move equals false. We shouldn't be moving if we have reached our target. Oh, did I spell something wrong there? I did this stupid thing here. There we go. If X equals for consistency equals Y equals, then should move will be reset as false, and then the movement shouldn't happen again. So let's have a quick look. And if I click, it still moves. What? Why? Why are you still moving? Why are you still moving? Sorry. I know why. Because It should only move if the chicken is selected. Of course, it's going to pass over the target variables, but it's not selected. It only moves if it's selected. That's the important. That's the. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. There we. No, it still didn't work. Oh, because it is selected now, so it should move. And if I deselect it, there we go. Now I'm clicking, and it's not moving. I'm clicking, it's not moving. I select the chicken, it moves. There we go. Oh, all right. I deselect the chicken. I select the chicken, and there's a different bug there. When we deselect the chicken and then we reselect the chicken, the targets. I see what we need to do. So we need to set the target in the chicken once it reaches its destination to be. We need to set the targets to be the current positions. Oh, hang on a minute. No. Sorry. Oh my god. Now this is just turning into hodgepodge. If is selected, then we do that. The thing that we really need to do is make sure that we're not setting targets unless the chicken is selected. If object chicken. See, this is where code flow is really important. Is selected, and this is kind of why I like doing the live streams as well, because we get these issues. I know they're not super fun to watch, but it's kind of, in my opinion, more informative to see the kind of crap that happens when you're programming, and then how you go about fixing that. So only set the target if the chicken is selected. Then the chicken will move to the target. If the chicken's not selected, we shouldn't be setting a target, because then when we select the chicken will be selected and it will try to move to the target that we had previously set, which is incorrect. So if I select the chicken, deselect the chicken, click to select a new target, and then select the chicken no longer moves to those targets unless I select the chicken. Then if I deselect the chicken, I click, I reselect the chicken, no more movement on the chicken. I think that just about covers it. We basically have a kind of Dota-esque, League of Legends-esque chicken movement system going, where we can move around a map of trees. I know it's not the greatest movement code, but you can implement, A-star pathfinding using GameMaker's internal pathfinding thingamajig. I can't remember what it's called. I used it to make that example around Christmas. But yeah, basically, this is what I would consider is a Dota style, League of Legends style, MOBA style movement. It could also be used for RTS style movement. And that's basically it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this stream. It's 7 p.m. here. My wife is pulling me by the ears right now to go and cook dinner, I think. So I'm going to shoot off now and eat dinner. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video and you found something useful here, please go ahead and jump onto Patreon. This video and the project files and all the code and everything that we used today will be available as a post to all Patreons of the channel. Really appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you guys later. Top Ice 1 Level Max Jelly 2 Master Pro XXL. We've been live for an hour and 10 minutes now, I think. Let me check. Yeah, hour and 10 minutes. The archives will be on YouTube, by the way, so I'll let you guys know. Killer Beast has a last question. Yeah, what's up, Killer Beast? How can I help? And it's gonna be a bit of latency, so I'm gonna be silent for a bit while I wait to hear what Killer Beast's question was. What is your question, Killer Beast? You must tell me your question now. Killer Beast has gone silent. Where has he gone? I don't know. Alright, haven't received a question. I'm sure by now my crazy antics have made it through the stream to Killer Beast's speakers. What came first, the chicken or the box? Yeah, it's a long question. The box came first. What happens if your game maker doesn't work? You need to contact Game Maker's support. Visit yoyogames.com and ask them what to do if Game Maker doesn't work on your computer. I don't know. I'm sorry. Alright guys, thank you for joining the stream today. I will see you guys next time, and take care. Bye for now.